Dear viewers, we welcome you in today's Doc Talk episode. Our today's discussion will be focusing on those barriers which a student faces or bears in the classroom. Language has been a barrier for many of us, and we are not able to appropriately communicate in the classrooms. Our student tries to overpower this problem, but for some reasons he or she is not able to cover this or overpower this problem. Today, in order to discuss these issues, we have two guests with us, and they'll be just telling us how a student can control this problem, overcome this problem. My first guest today is Mr. Amir Hafeez. Amir Hafeez Malik is an associate professor in Govt Graduate College of Science at Multan, and he is currently pursuing his doctoral studies from Islamia University Bahawalpur. Dr. Malik has written so many books so far, and he is also a trainer of English language at various levels. He has visited so many countries so far with this, in this regard, and as a trainer, he has trained a lot of people, not only in the South Punjab, but in whole Pakistan. My second guest is Ms. Wisha Saeed. She is also a postdoctoral student at Islamia University Multan, and her area of specialization is food sciences, and she will also be talking about what barriers are there for a student to learn this language. I welcome you, Mr. Amir Hafeez Malik, to this program, our Doc Talk show, and definitely your presence is very much valuable. Mr. Amir Hafeez for joining our today's Doc Talk show. You are language trainers, and you might be very much cognizant what problems a student faces in the classroom as far as language learning is concerned. As a trainer, how do you look at this? Whether language can play a role, learning language can play a role in students' personal growth and development?
Thank you, Doc Talk, and thank you, Dr. Saeed, especially for inviting me to this invaluable session. It is always nice to talk to the students and the colleagues when they are talking of language. And this is my domain, and I would love to talk about this program. Yeah, language simply is a tool that makes human beings the human beings, and we believe that language makes a man talking animal. The others are animals, but man is a talking animal. So we can't survive without language. It is just like breathing. Can human beings survive without breathing? The answer is no. And exactly, can we survive academically without English language? The answer is no. So one way or the other, whether it is easy for us or it is difficult for us, whether we like it or not, English would be there. So we had to tackle English. Yes, English has a role because it is a medium of instruction. Yes, English has a role because it is the medium which is there in the books. The textbooks are in English. Yes, English is important because it has the examination system relies on English language. The students who have a good expression in English, they can get very good credits and they can become high achievers. So English is everywhere. The role of English is that, number one, the teachers must be able to communicate the ideas or the text or the topics or the subject matter in English. If the students are conveyed the material in English, that is wonderful, because giving exposure to the learner is the basic need, and I think that is the basic purpose behind the whole academic setting, that the teacher and the learner must be able to communicate in English. Communicate in English as much as they can. Number two, whenever it comes to the learners or the students, they must be able to communicate in English. I know that the learners don't have much exposure to English, and I know that there are certain barriers, but then it gives birth to the need of learning English. So since English is there, we believe we must go with the concept. Number one, we need to learn English. Number two, we need to apply English. And number three, we need to create an environment which is English language communication based. I've seen many good students who are very good in academic, their profiles and their transcripts, they're very good, but when I talk to them and I communicate to them, they're lost. And this is the reason is that they have never realized what is the role of language, because they believe that they can live without English. So English role is really, number one, very obvious, and number two, very significant. We all need to realize that English is there and we should be there with the English.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wisha, for joining our doctor show today. As far as learning language and communicating in language is concerned, what we see, most of our students in the classroom and in most of the institutions, they do not prefer to communicate with their mates and the teacher in English language. Whether they do feel some kind of barriers for communicating with the teachers effectively, and if there are certain barriers for the students, you believe those barriers can be overpowered one way or the other. How do you look at this situation, and how we can improve this situation in the classroom, keeping in view the significance of the language, a global language, for personal development of the students?
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for having me on your show. So this is not only a problem in our university. We see this problem throughout the Pakistani universities, particularly in public sector universities. I personally have witnessed that students don't feel comfortable speaking English language with their teachers. Neither do they feel good communicating with each other in English language. And the very reason for this could be lack of confidence. Because people over here in the universities are from diverse backgrounds. Some of them are from really good schools, but unfortunately, the situation in Pakistan, we do have students from public sector schools which are not in that, which are not trained in that particular way. So because initially they don't have a good knowledge about English, they don't know how to speak, they don't know how to communicate, that's why they don't have the confidence of communicating. So this is the first and the foremost reason for which the students are not willing to communicate in English. Secondly, what I believe is the role of the university itself, like even our teachers or the students. So this is the first and the foremost reason for which people are really less confident in speaking English. Secondly, another very important reason is the diversity in the groups and the culture in the classroom. Like in the groups, some of the students who even try to speak well or who try to speak good with one another, but there are some negative factors who are prevailing in the atmosphere. I mean, if any student is courageous enough to speak to someone else just for the purpose of improving its communication, but there would be a third person who would be just judging him that okay, he does not know how to speak well, he is not aware of the basic grammatical rules of English. So this thing that we might get judged or evaluated by our fellows, and it will be leaving a negative impact on our personality. So students are not encouraged to speak English with each us and in the group. So the third reason, which is also playing a pivotal role in hindering students speak English language, is that we generally, a Pakistani or Pakistani population, do not feel that language learning is important in the career development of the students, in their personal development, in their career development, and in their lives. So they don't focus on teaching English, they don't focus on getting new ideas regarding the techniques or new methodologies for learning language. So this is the third reason that in general or in public at large, the society doesn't feel the need of speaking language or learning language English as a tool for the success. So they say that we can get the success, we can get the jobs, we can get the opportunities even without learning this language. Although that's not true, the flip.
Thank you, Usha. Dr. Amir Hafeez, please tell us what is your suggestion for the students to improve their language skill?
So suggestions can be on two levels. Number one is the self level. So self level is that student must work on their English. I mean, they should realize what are the barriers, what are the shortcomings, and they should set targets to improve their English. And number two, on institutional level, I would request to establish practical learning labs. I mean that those labs must be the part of the academic curriculums. If you introduce practical learning labs, which is PPL program, you can offer students the program, and that program means that with education they will be having certain trainings to build their confidence, trainings to build their communication skills, training to build their other skills as well. I mean, for example, there can be a painter in your class, so you can offer him to be a practical painter in the classroom, and you can hold on institutional level, you can hold certain exhibition. There can be a motivational speaker, there can be a poet in your class, there can be a debater in your class, there can be a cook in your class, there can be a boy with a success story as a businessman in a class. So if it is a practical lab, that is how we can translate the theory into practice. Unfortunately, our education system is more theoretical. We are teaching courses and courses, but we are not practical. The practical learning lab can serve that purpose.
That's great. And what is the take-home message for the students? What should they do? I mean, this is a kind of suggestion as well, but as a final word, what would you suggest to them as how they can improve their language skills?
Yeah, my take-home message is that learn to live with English. You can survive without English, but you cannot, enjoy your life without English. If you give your time to English communication skills, it will pay you in life. Whether that is socialization, whether that's your career-based activities, whether any way you go, for your life, English is there, and don't be scared of English. Learn to live with English.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining Dr. today, and we hope that you will be just joining us in our next episode of Doctor. Good night.